it do? It went home. Huh. Isn't that interesting? It went home. But Mary didn't go home. She stands there. And she just stands there and she cries. So that's it. First they arrest him. Then they crucify him. Then they put him in a tomb. And I can't even anoint his body. It's the last straw. They took his body. Who does that? And then she looks in and she sees two angels in white. And I just picture as we're reading this, was there anything about Mary that says, of course. The Messiah has been crucified. Then they've stolen his body. The guys took off and went home. I'm by myself. My heart is broken. I'm in the dark. Of course there's going to be some angels. Maybe not. So here's two angels. One seated where Jesus' body had been, the head by the foot. And here's the refrain here. Woman, why are you crying? Because they took his body away. And it's kind of a coincidence that the stone is rolled away, the body is gone, and you're here. And if you carried him away, just tell me where you put him. No questions asked, and I'm going to go get him. And Jesus says to her, Mary. And she turns to him, obviously recognizing his voice, and cries out in Aramaic, Rabboni, which means teacher. And then Jesus gives some instructions. Mary, you can't hang on to me. I know you'd like to grab a hold of me and have life go on the way that it was. Same relationship, same disciples, same mission. But things have changed now with my resurrection. I'm going to be meeting people in their darkest places. I'm going to meet them in the upper room where the disciples are in the darkness of fear that the officials are going to come and slaughter them next. I'm going to meet a couple of guys on the road to Emmaus who are walking along with their hearts broken, telling the story of Jesus. I'm going to meet some other people on a road by Jerusalem in their moment of darkness that they think that I have gone forever. I'm going to be showing up to people in their darkest moments, just like I just am doing right now with you. But then you've got work to do. You've got to get the story out. You've got to get the story out. And then those guys, they got to get the story out too. And that's what she does, and that's what they do. Where does Easter happen? Well, duh, Pastor Bill. It happens right here. It is happening right here. Easter morning, resurrection, songs and prayers, and hunting M&Ms. Easter celebration. Perhaps Easter is going to happen in your house. Maybe it's with family or some friends or by yourself in a quiet moment, you and the Lord with a good piece of honey-baked ham. That's Easter. But I submit to you even more that Easter happens in the times when your life is the darkest. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, when it's completely dark and you don't know how you're going to go forward. And especially in the time of death. You see, when Mary's crying, Jesus doesn't say, silly woman, ye of little faith. Don't you recognize me? It's Jesus. He doesn't say that because he gets our hearts when we encounter death. And that's when he is particularly present. That's where Easter happens. When you walk into the funeral home and you look into a casket and you see your father's face for the first time and you feel like someone has hit you in the gut with a cinder block. Easter happens. When you're in a hospital and the doctor comes out and sits down quietly and pulls down his mask and says, I'm so sorry, we did everything we could, but we couldn't save her. Easter happens. When you take your daughter who you give your life for, and you fly her to San Diego, and you entrust her to good, competent people, but ones you hardly know, and you walk out the door of that facility, and it's one of the hardest days of your life. Easter happens. Because it's at that point that Jesus is there for you. And we know He's there for us if we're living close enough to Him, that when He calls us by name, we recognize that He's there. We don't recognize just everybody's name. Not everybody recognizes our name. The people that recognize our name are the people that we love, and they love us. And in the darkest of times, you get a phone call, you get a phone message, they step into your life, and you know that they're there and things are different because they call you by name and you recognize the voice. That's our job on this Easter day. By the power of the Spirit that lives within us, we live each day close enough to Jesus that when that time comes, that time of death, or the death of a loved one, or our darkest day, and Jesus speaks, we recognize the voice. Tom Long tells the story of Mary Ann Bird. Mary Ann Bird was a schoolgirl that had a very dark life. She had a cleft palate. Mary Ann had a disfigured face. She had a bad foot that caused her to more waddle than walk. And immediately the other kids at school picked up on her differences. And every day that she went to school, they would, Mary Ann, wouldn't matter, did you cut your lip? Hey, Mary Ann, why do you walk like a duck? You do walk like a duck, you know. And the only thing that made school halfway bearable for Mary Ann Bird was her teacher, Miss Leonard. Miss Leonard was kind of short, kind of plump, real dowdy, and she had the kind heart that all great teachers do. The day came, as it came every year, and it was the day that Mary Ann Bird dreaded the most. It was the day of the annual hearing test. And back in the day, the hearing test was real simple. Miss Leonard would call each student, one by one to the front of the class. And they would put their hand over one ear, and she would whisper something, like the sky is blue. And then they'd cover their other ear, and she'd whisper something else, like, I like your shoes. And back in the day, if you could hear what Miss Leonard was saying, you could hear just fine. But Mary Ann Bird had one more difficulty. She was completely deaf in one ear. And she knew that on that day, the kids would all be reminded, oh yeah, waddling Mary Ann is deaf too, isn't she? And it'd be one more piece that they could use to torment her. So Mary Ann Bird, when her name was called, walked up in front of the whole class. Even watching her waddle up there was pretty hilarious to everybody. And she put her hand over her good ear. And Miss Leonard leaned in real closely and she said, Mary Ann, I wish you were my little girl. And Mary Ann Bird said, when I heard my teacher call my name, everything changed. It was love, it was acceptance, and it was hope. And she went on from that day, and she became a great teacher herself. And she spoke the name to other kids, and she gave them hope. My prayer for all of us is that we live close enough to Jesus, that when the day of darkness comes, and it comes in our lives, doesn't it? It does. See, resurrection doesn't mean the end of our tears. Resurrection means that our tears aren't the end of the story. It means that the Christ is there with us in our darkness and in our tears. So my prayer is that God would help every one of us that throughout the year we walk close enough with Him that when the day of darkness comes and He calls our voice and we know that He's there, that everything changes. Let's pray now. Lord, sometimes when we get in those dark places, it sure seems like we're by ourselves. It seems like we've lost hope. It seems like we're all alone. But we're not. Spirit of the living God, please help us. Because sometimes we walk close with you and sometimes we wander off on our own. Help this resurrection morning be a day when you help us into a more consistent